You're listening to Tabletop and Beyond, the Guild 9 gaming podcast covering board games to war games and beyond.
Hey everybody, and welcome back to Tabletop and Beyond. I am your host, Justin, and I'm here with my buddy, Jason.
Hey everybody.
Dan unfortunately couldn't make it tonight, so we are going to run along without him, but he'll be back next week, hopefully. So, to get started, Jason, how was your Geek Week?
Pretty good, man. I got back into an old favorite with Diablo 3. Season 20 is out right now, and I decided I was going to get myself a seasonal set. So I set myself a goal for my quarantine time, sitting inside, and been having a lot of fun. We've been playing that together, reminding ourselves how easy it is and fun it is to jump into that game with friends. In and out, it's just they did such a good job just making it easy to play with friends in that game.
You know what's interesting about that game to me is that the core of what I like about it was there from the beginning, but they had put in a bunch of extra stuff, like remember the auction house and all that kind of stuff, and they really didn't have a total like end game sort of philosophy. It was just, all right, well, you've leveled up all these characters and good job, just keep playing or whatever. But then they decided over time, I think it was like 3 years into it when the next expansion came out, with the Necromancer, right? That like they started putting in a lot of the end game stuff, and they started having the seasons that they do. And I'll tell you what, they are a blast. They are so much fun.
Was it the Necromancers that brought the season, or was it the first expansion?
It might have been the first expansion.
I feel either way. I feel like the game has ridiculous longevity. I know Diablo 4 is on the cusp right now, but I bought that. See, I own Diablo 3. I bought it when it first came out on the PC. Yeah. And I played it back when they had the two auction houses. They had the one with the in-game money, and they had the one with the real money. Yeah. I think I made like 2 cents on that, maybe. But and so it was. Even then, it was really fun to play and so easy to jump in and out of the game. And now that there's all this in-game content with it's just so fun to play. It's one of those games that just makes you feel like you can stomp drag the game, And then and then once you get all buffed up and you're feeling good, and that difficulty level rises just a little bit more, all of a sudden you're back to planning and strategizing and adjusting your skills and remapping and respecing and all that.
So I think where the longevity comes from, in my opinion, is that you can take these characters, whether it be a barbarian, a crusader, a demon hunter, whoever, right? You can take these characters and spec them out so differently. Mm-hmm. And you have a very different experience. So I have 3 barbarians right now, and the way that season 20 is working, like when I got like the set armor for season 20, it's making me play a barbarian the way I've never played it before, and I'm totally having fun with it. Yeah, because I've never tried this way before, and it's just it's like a brand new. It's like Madonna's song, "Like a Virgin," right?
Right. And there's a lot of good community content out there for people who are meta building. So if you want to, you can grind, and you could spend the whole season just grinding for all of the pieces to complete that final top tier meta set that is out there. And that in itself is fun if that's your bag. If you just want to get out there and kill monsters and see lots of blood and guts, then you can just do that any way you want. It's just a great game.
And it's like exponentially better with friends. When you get a couple of your buddies on there and you're playing together, man, it is a ton of fun.
Yes.
Ton of fun.
It's a good game. Really enjoyed it. So Diablo 3 was a big geek week for me. Also finally completed the Halo 5 campaign.
Oh, yeah, that's right. We did that, didn't we?
Finally, yeah. And I will say that the Halo franchise is probably just a little dated for me now. I'm just so used to so many, and we were talking about this of, Halo 3 was probably the last really big Halo game for me. Right. I was, I had an original Xbox when it first came out, and I played Marathon, from some of Bungie's earlier games, and just all those things. But Halo 4, I didn't really super get into that. It was 343's, I think, first attempt at the franchise. Halo 5, I think the gaming, the mechanics of the game were good, were solid. But I just blew through it with friends, and I didn't really pay attention to the story. I mean, we'd be chatting and playing the
Yeah.
game, and then I'd be like, "Wait, I think I just missed a ton of dialogue." And whatever, just kill some more
Probably
guys
did.
in the next wave and keep pushing forward.
Yeah, well, and that's probably our fault because we'd all finished the story and we're just like, oh,
Yeah.
we don't need this cutscene anymore. But I'll be honest with you, I think Halo 5 was the least memorable of all the stories. I mean, I did it on solo on Legendary, and I lived like experienced the whole thing when it first came out, and I'm kind of like, okay, yeah, I vaguely remember like what the premise was, but of all the stories, I mean, it's like Halo 1, 2, and 3 really, and Reach really stuck in there.
Mm-hmm.
And then 4, you're like, okay, I got it. I understand what we're doing right now. And I've played that so many times that I remember it. But
Yeah.
5, I'm just like, And one thing that's probably helped with the other ones is that when the Master Chief Collection came out, it had, Halo CE, Halo 2, 3, and 4 in it. Right, and then they later added ODST and Reach to it, and so going back and playing all of those many times with friends and with that, just alone, just getting achievements and stuff like that. Halo 5 was never included in there, and so I played through it only just maybe once or twice, and so I don't know. Halo 5 was, in my opinion, the weakest one, but people maybe get mad about that. I don't know.
Well, the other thing is I always struggled to enjoy the Halo, back in Halo 1, Halo 2 days, when you were doing LAN parties, totally dug that and got into it. Halo 3, I really was competitive in Halo 3. I played with some really, really good guys that were levels above me, which always kind of pulled me in. And I kind of got sick of it, honestly. I think I got sick of... And I've kind of been like this ever since that game. I don't really like games that have crazy shields. I like more of the, like the old school Ghost Recon where it's like, realistic bullet damage kind of games where you've really got to pay attention. You've got to be careful on your movement and strategy. Games where you can, waste into someone and then they can turn a corner and 5 seconds later be recharged back up to full health. Like, I just don't like those kinds of games anymore.
Yeah. Interesting. Yeah, I mean, it's more fun and gun, run and gun kind of thing, and I think it was Reach that they really started introducing a lot of like the armor supplements, that threw a lot of people out their game in terms of the competitive scene. There was a whole thing I watched about it. It was like this esports documentary about how Reach kind of killed the Halo esports.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and how like Halo 3 was kind of its pinnacle.
Yeah.
In esports, and then they introduced all these armor supplements and stuff like that, and it just kind of killed the competitive community, and they all switched to other games like League of Legends or
Well, Halo 3 was amazing in terms of its multiplayer content. Not just the adversarials. The adversarials are great with the big team battles, and those kind of things that was introduced. But the competitive scoring in the co-op campaign was awesome. I tell you, I probably played through the Halo 3 campaign, 50 times, going through different scoring challenges with buddies and stuff.
That was really kind of a heyday of, in my opinion, the first-person shooter genre, too. I mean, like, the Call of Duties back then were ridiculously fun. I don't know if you played them as much, but I played them all the time. Like whenever a new Call of Duty came out, I got it.
Yep.
And then, I don't know. I kind of dropped off. I started getting into more RPG stuff and, single player stuff. And maybe part of that was because I just sort of got busy, and I couldn't really be competitive as much on some of these things.
It's hard to stay up with that competitive scene because the people that are going to be the most competitive are the younger age guys who, honestly, are the people who are like in college and they can go to school and they can get their work done and then they can spend 6 hours playing Halo every day. Yeah. and that, to be honest, right, it's the 1,000-hour rule, right? The more time on the ball, the better. And it's hard to compete when you can only cram in like maybe an hour in the evening after the kids are in bed and you're already dead tired and your brain's about to shut off anyways.
Yeah, there's that point where you can start sniping people without zooming in. that you've reached that level, right? And it takes a lot of time to get to that point.
Yeah. Well, Halo 3 had a ridiculously strong auto aim
Yeah.
in it to begin with, but yeah, there's some pretty amazing. I remember I was reading a Game Informer once, and it was one of the top ranked Halo players, and I was reading the article, and I was like, "Well, all right, what can I do to get better? What can I do to get better?" And he said, "So what's your strategy?" And he was like, "So I have a regimented practice routine. I go to school every day, then I come home and I play Halo from this time to this time, and I'm counting up these hours." I'm like, "Dude, he's playing Halo for 8 hours a day."
Yeah.
And I'm like, "All right, I give up."
I'm done. I'm done. Have you ever tried to play like the Lazo campaign things? Like the legendary all skulls on?
Yeah, no.
So it turns off the auto aim for you, and you can't hit the broadside of a barn.
Yep.
I'm like, I'm so bad at this.
Well, and the other thing is the Halo system has a smaller field of view than most other first-person shooters. I don't know if you've noticed that or not, but you have this kind of immersive experience of being inside a helmet.
Yeah.
A visor, and Halo actually has a shorter field of not as wide a beam width field of view as other first-person shooters. I don't know if it was because they were going for the helmet or it's just the way that their engine works, but so yeah, it becomes incredibly difficult to pay attention to your surroundings and stuff without those auto assists.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. I've tried a couple of times just to get like the achievement of finish one mission with it on. I'm like, can't do it. Not even the beginning mission.
You suck.
I'm like, that grunt in like Halo ZE, that first grunt kills me every single time. And I'm like, I can't even get out of the system.
And so I just back up and just put Grunt Birthday Party on and call it a day.
Yeah, exactly. So worth it. That skull's the best one in the game.
Yep. Best one of all time when they introduced that one.
That's awesome. All right. Anything else for your Geek Week?
No, that's probably it, man.
Cool. Well, obviously I played some Diablo 3 and Halo with you. This weekend and throughout the week. I've done more Rogue Trader prep. So for the record, I've been off this week, so I've had a little bit more time to do geeky stuff, and we've been putting our kids through a regimen of like 2 hours of school a day, you know. And so I'll sit down with them at the kitchen table, and while they're doing their schoolwork, I've been doing like Rogue Trader prep. And
what are you doing, Daddy? I'm doing my work.
I'm doing my homework. Yeah, exactly. So I'm doing my my RPG prep for this Saturday that we're gonna kick it off. I'm excited for it.
Oh, it is this Saturday.
Yep.
I need to make sure it's on my calendar.
Yeah, you better make sure. Yeah. And let's see. So yeah, I'm doing Rogue Trader prep, Diablo 3. Also, when I haven't been doing Rogue Trader prep on the computer, I've been firing up Endless Space 2.
Oh, you jumped back into that, huh?
Yeah, I'll tell you what. After a while, I'm kind of like, okay, I'm just ready to win this thing. And I'm like, I'm not going to win this thing for at least 50 more turns.
Yep.
And so where I'm at right now is I'm going for the supremacy win factor, which is I have to conquer 22 star systems or colonize 22 star systems. I've got 15 done now. I've got 7 colonizer ships going out to the star systems, and it's going to take like, I don't know, probably 30 turns after they get there at least, to actually turn the outpost into a colony. And meanwhile, my entire empire is burning. Like, the morale is so low because I have blown through the colonizer requirement, and so everybody hates the fact that I've expanded throughout the galaxy.
Overpopulated worlds.
So I've literally got totally overpopulated. I've literally got battleships at every major system. So whenever there's a thing, they just shut it down. They're like, no rebellion for you.
Boom.
So I'm kind of like, all right, I don't care if you guys rebel. I've got enough manpower that I'll put you down.
To see the history books for your reign. It was a time of oppression.
The funny thing is, literally every other turn, because it's just pure anarchy that's happening in this empire. It's like your systems fall into anarchy. Now you're a dictatorship. Your systems fall into anarchy. Now you're a republic. Your systems fall into anarchy. Now you're a federation. Oh, back to dictatorship. Every other turn, I'm flipping governments.
Yeah.
Faster than the French, man.
Yeah. I love how you can, I love how you can you can enact laws and for your your government and everything. And I loved Endless Space 1, played it to death. Endless Space 2, I love the UI reskin they put on it. Really kind of gives you that everything's alive and moving and fluid feel. Stellaris is another really good game. I would say Stellaris might actually be a little more in depth for the people who like really geek out over 4X game, but Endless Space is a little bit easier to just jump in and still feel immersed. So that's one of my favorites.
There's still a lot to do. I'm kind of like, all right, I need to do this one thing. What's the lever I need to pull? To make it happen.
Been a while. Yeah, it's been a while since I've actually finished an Endless Space 2 game.
Yeah.
Because like you said, you get going for the first, you get through 20 turns and you're like, okay, I could do this. And then you realize there's probably another 120 turns in this game.
Oh, at least.
Yeah.
And I'm just trying to keep the diplomatic relations with the other three major powers. I'm like, I'm your friends, guys. Don't attack me.
Yay.
They're like, why are you coming into my system?
Yeah,
and I'm like,
right?
I'm just your friendly local colonizer.
Yeah. I'm here to help clear the pirates out.
Yeah, exactly. Except one guy's sending the pirates at me. He's a real jerk. Yeah. Yeah, it's the
Can't
AI
respect
guy.
borders.
Yeah, exactly. So anyway, did a little bit of Endless Space 2, and then last night I played an Age of Sigmar game on Tabletop Simulator, and it went swimmingly. I mean, all things considered, I thought it was a great game.
Swimmingly until round 3.
Well, so the guy I was playing against, he was hosting the game, and apparently I think his hard drive's going out, so he would randomly freeze up, which would shut the game down. And unless we had saved, or like there was an autosave, like we had to go back and move our pieces, and sometimes that got a little tricky, but I think, though, after my last move, it was pretty much over.
Mm-hmm.
Because I destroyed like his big block of guys, and that would have caused some problems for me if I hadn't gotten rid of them. So, but I'm learning a lot about my army. Even now, I've got a couple experiment games I want to play with other people just to try things out and see how I like them. But what's kind of cool about Tabletop Simulator is you can do that. You know what I mean? You can say, oh, I'm just going to throw this random list together because you have all the digital models there. And try something that like you would never. I don't have like 40 Arrow Boys from Bone Splitters. Like it'd be really interesting to try it out and see how I liked it. Yeah. And if I really liked it, then I'll buy it. You're
gonna have to play me again someday.
Listen. The door's open. I'm ready for you. I'm ready for you and your ogres. I'm ready for you in FEC. Whatever you want to throw at me. Although the one night that you said you were willing to play me, I was not feeling so well, so I had to go.
It's cool. Yeah. No.
Yeah. Anyway.
We played each other as opponents so much at the beginning that I think we kind of like demagnetized ourselves from each other. We're like, all right, who can play a game? Justin's like, I'm free, and I'm like, I'm free, and I'm like, okay, we'll just skip the games this week.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. I mean, it takes two to tango, and we had to learn. We had to learn, so we played a lot in the beginning.
Right.
So yeah, it was good times. Good times. Last little thing is I did some painting today, so that was good. Made some headway.
Always.
Yep. So yeah. So it was a good geek week. My wife keeps telling me that I have things going on every night, and it's starting to be the how come you have things going on every night? I think she's starting to wonder why during quarantine I still have things going on.
Make sure you reserve some time for the two of you.
I know. The thing is we are doing stuff. It's just throughout the day a little bit more, especially when I'm off.
Because you're both home.
Yeah. So she's like, but wait a minute, So.
I see that's different for you, man. See, my work has transitioned 100% to remote. I'm actually working longer hours now that I'm home.
Oh my gosh. That's the worst.
It's crazy. I will, but it is nice. I will say, like in the middle of the day, I can just be like, what? I'm freaking going for a walk. And I'll get outside. I'll put the dog on a leash. Yeah. And I'll go for like a 30-minute walk.
And you know what? You can like go upstairs and make yourself a sandwich, and it's like not a big deal, right?
Yep. So it is nice to have a different routine. I'm definitely in a more beneficial position, and I do count my blessings on that than a lot of people, because I know a lot of people are struggling. They just aren't working and they're not getting paid. Yeah. So heart goes out to all those people. I hope we can see some things change here in the near future, so that we can kind of get our economy back going the way it should be.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. I hope for any of you listening out there that's just been forced to stay home and are not have a paycheck coming in. I'd like us to get everybody back working soon as possible.
Yep.
So anyway, all right. So let's talk about some news that happened. I'm sure you saw this. I know a lot of our geeky friends saw it and were like totally geeking out over it. Mm-hmm. But Henry Cavill, who is known for playing Superman and The Witcher, and The Man from U.N.C.L.E.
The what?
Okay, all right. Maybe you didn't see that movie, but he was
say it
in
again.
it.
I didn't hear you. What did you say?
The Man from U.N.C.L.E.
The man. It's not ringing a bell.
So that was it was like a spy show in like the 70s, like with like Get Smart, and so they made a movie about it.
Yes.
And he was the U.S. agent.
Uh-huh.
And there was some lady that was a Russian.
And also the latest Mission Impossible movie.
Oh yes, he was in that.
And he was an awesome bad guy in that movie.
Yes, he was. He was very good in it.
It's several years old now, so I didn't just ruin it.
No, there's some spoilers on that one. Yep. That was a pretty good Mission Impossible.
He did a really good job in that movie, actually. Really good job.
Yeah, big fan of it. So
he's a good actor.
He is, and I think that he sort of got typecast as the Superman. People always think of him as Superman, right?
Yeah, and honestly, he's not my favorite Superman.
I mean, is it Christopher Reeve?
Well, I'm probably biased with
Dean Cain. Just because it's Dean Cain, isn't it?
It's probably biased just because I grew up with Christopher Reeves, playing Superman. But I don't know, and I don't think I don't think that it is his fault. But I think that the writing for the Superman in the latest DC Superman movies he just kind of comes off as this like the world sucks, everything's against me. There's no way I can win. It's just so many of those faces. Like, did you ever see Alias?
Yes. Yep.
It was Vaughn on Alias. Like, Vaughn had the exact same face the entire series. He's like, it's just everything just sucks really bad. I'm so sorry, but we're just gonna have to go kill these guys.
Yeah, seriously.
It's like, oh my god. So, anyways, he's a really good actor.
I agree with you that I think that he his writing was not good. I think that failed him because I think he could have done better, and evidenced by The Witcher. Because he played Geralt of Rivia so spot on. Like, have you even picked up Witcher 3 yet?
I have, and I played it a little bit. Yeah.
Okay, so you've seen a little bit of the
he
mannerisms.
Picked up the guy from the game right on.
Oh, dude, it's so good. It is so good. So. Anyway, and then we can talk about The Witcher later. But he sent out on his Instagram, which I am now following because one of my Instagram accounts, the El Renegado Mini's Instagram account, only follows people who paint miniatures. Like, I don't follow any of the politics stuff or Instagram models or anything like that. It's only miniatures, and now I have to follow him because he put on his Instagram that he was in quarantine waiting for The Witcher 2 to start filming again, but in the meantime he was just getting some hobbying done. And he had an Adeptus Custodes Warhammer 40k model helmet that he was painting. And for the record, by the way, he was like, this wasn't like a rookie painting either, like that he was doing, right? Like, he had the helmet pinned like on a little pin that he was painting that he could then glue on later to the thing. And that's not rookie level hobbying. Like, you do that once you've known, like, oh crap, if I put this helmet on, I can't paint the other parts of the armor that I need to do, so I gotta paint this all separately. Right? So I don't know how good he is overall, but at least he knows that, and it looked like his paint job was doing pretty good. He had a nice point on his brush.
Yeah, I saw that. Nice little point there. Showing a little technique of laying the brush across the finger.
So the thing that came out of that is that all the Warhammer 40k fans started geeking out hardcore and pushing hard for him to take a role in what sounds like might be a Warhammer 40k HBO series.
Right. Yeah, that's been in talk for a while.
Yeah, probably like the Halo series.
Yeah, the Halo series has been in talk for a while. The other thing is that a long time ago there was a Dead Space talk, and I would love to see a Dead Space movie or series.
Yeah.
Dead Space is one of my all-time favorite franchises.
Well, hopefully it doesn't get thrown into the Tremors the series bucket where it says it's still in production, but it started in 2011.
Right.
You know.
Good stuff. Anyways,
so
pretty cool.
All right, so Privateer Press, they have their convention, and Privateer Press is primarily known for like their paints and things like that, but they also have Hordes is their big tabletop game. And so they, in their cons, normally have like exclusive convention minis that you can only get if you go to the convention. Well, we're starting, in Privateer Press, I think is located in the Seattle area, if I'm not mistaken. And I just don't think that their convention is going to be happening this year.
Yeah, probably not.
So, what they've done is they've put their convention exclusive minis up on their web shop, and they're pretty cool minis. So if you want to check it out, go to privateerpress.com and check out their web shop, and you'll see the exclusive minis.
Cool.
That's kind of cool. Let's see. You love a Xbox game that we play.
We talked about it on a prior podcast just a couple episodes ago, I think.
Yeah.
Elite Dangerous.
Elite Dangerous. So you love that game, and Frontier has recently launched a beta testing, and it's only on the PC right now. I heard it's going to be coming to the Xbox late this month or early next month. Anyway, but they put out the beta testing for fleet carriers, and these are like giant ships that you can get. They're essentially like mini space stations that you can run operations from. And they've put out some pricing for it, and the initial prices that they had for like your purchase and upkeep apparently were so out of astronomically ridiculous that everybody said there's no way that we will ever be getting this ship.
Yeah.
And using it. And so today I saw there was an update from Frontier, and they said that they're going to be dropping the prices overall on like upkeep 85 to 90%.
Yeah.
I was like, what? 85 to 90%? Like, that's such a huge drop. Like, they were so far out of touch with, like, what people were doing. Because the way that their thing was, the pricing was, is it would lock you into a certain type of activity just to keep up with the prices. And, like, void opal mining was mentioned specifically, right? So they're like, I don't want to just do void opal mining for the rest of my experience. Like, and I would have to do that to keep this fleet carrier up, right?
Yeah.
And so, so I think that there's still going to be a lot of changes to it, but it sounds like it's starting to come out of the stratosphere into normal world reality.
Yeah, I think that, and I didn't say it, but this is exactly what I thought was going to happen, is they would put it out into the beta like they always do. They'd get a lot of feedback from people, and then they would adjust. And what really, and this seems to happen with most games, is when they put out new giant big things, it's typically harder to get those. It's harder to utilize, take advantage of those things than if you wait a couple patches, down the road. A couple patches down the road, they're usually easing those things out, making it easier to bring them into your, into your armament, into your capabilities, because they realize, hey, now that this is out there and more people want it, people want to keep playing the game. If we want people to keep playing our game, we need to make the game easy and fun for them to play.
Yeah.
And, this isn't, you think of a game like EVE Online, and EVE Online is just like, suck it. It takes, a year to learn how to fly this ship, a year real time. If you want to fly the ship, it takes a year, and that's what you're going to have to do. And even EVE, the developers behind EVE Online have softened their requirements on things over time, as they realized we have to keep our player base. And if we don't make it easier to play the game, the player base is going to go in our fast-paced world to another game. So when I saw originally it was like somewhere between 10 and 20 billion, and I was like, and then it went, now it's somewhere between 7 and 10 with an upkeep of 7 billion. And now it's like, it's going to be somewhere around 5 billion and probably not cost much to keep up.
Yeah, exactly. So they said something like 10 to 17 million to upkeep.
And that's
Yeah, it's
totally doable. Yeah.
And apparently you can bank away a bunch of money too. You know what I mean? So if you put 100 billion in there, you're good for several weeks.
Yeah.
You know, or not billion, 100 million in there. But anyway.
Yeah, we'll see.
Yeah.
This Elite Dangerous is one of those games that I pick up, I'll play it solid for like a month, and then I'll put it down and I won't play it for like 3 months. But I've been playing the game since, it can't. I played the beta before it was, which they don't call beta. It was like, and it's not Steam Greenlight. There was some name for it on Xbox when something would be released, but it wasn't quite out yet. I don't remember what it was called. Anyways. So yeah, I love the game. I actually have a flight controller stick, the Thrustmaster flight controller stick that I love playing it with. It really, if you play those kinds of games, those controllers really up the immersive feel and how awesome it is to fly spaceships. I'm just gonna say it. It was total. I've talked about it before on a prior episode, but totally worth it. A lot of fun.
Yeah, so I'm excited for it. I'm excited for the what I'm really impressed with though is that Frontier is responding so quickly. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, they're good guys.
Now and the thing too is the beta community that they've been using. I mean, these guys play this almost like a second job. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? And so they're so tuned in on like everything, all the aspects of the game that I think that Frontier shows that their feedback is really valued.
Yeah.
And that they trust them, which is, I think, a very healthy gaming and developer gaming community and developer relationship, and that's a pretty good model that they have there. So, anyway, all right. So, D&D Forgotten Realms has a new supplement that just recently came out, and this is called it's called the Border Kingdoms Forgotten Realms Campaign Supplement. It's not an official Wizards of the Coast product. But it was developed by two of the guys, Ed Greenwood and Alex Kammer, and apparently they had helped develop some of the original content for the Forgotten Realms. Mm. So they put this together. It's got 100 pages of lore about the Border Kingdoms. It's got a new map that's kind of like, if you look at the Forgotten Realms, I guess it's like in like one of the southern quadrants down there, and it's just kind of like this Border Kingdoms area that nobody's explored before. Mm-hmm. It's got 11 new it says 11 new and fully Adventures League legal character backgrounds. So it can be incorporated into the Adventures League. And it's got a bunch of campaign hooks and all that type of stuff. So it doesn't sound like it's actual. It doesn't sound like it's actual like campaign book. Like it's not like like Into the Abyss or some of the other ones that have come out. But it's a source book, and apparently it's not a Wizards of the Coast product, but it's fully approved by Wizards of the Coast, meaning that it's like the content and all the lore in the book is official Forgotten Realms canon. Mm-hmm. So, which is kind of cool. You can pick this up on Dungeon Masters Guild, so dmsguild.com, and you can get a PDF for $15, which is kind of nice. You can get a hardcover for $29.99, a softcover for $24.99, or you can get the PDF and softcover for, the PDF and hardcover is $37.99, and the PDF and softcover is $32.49. So if you're planning to get like the book, you might as well spend an extra $8 to get the PDF as well and have them both. Mm-hmm. And to be honest with you, like a source book for $30 isn't too bad.
No, it's not bad at all.
So, yeah. Anyway, it looks kind of cool. It seems like people are really excited about it. So, yeah. Kind of interesting.
Yep.
Let's see. Oh, and this is kind of one of my things that I saw that I might be interested in. Humble Bundle, which if you guys aren't like on the Humble Bundle mailing list, you should get on there, because there's some really cool bundles that end up coming out. And there's the Bundle of Holding, which is technically separate from Humble Bundle, but Bundle of Holding is for like RPG games specifically. I picked up Rogue Trader and all of the source books for $15. We're talking all of the source books. That if you were to go to the Cubicle 7 website and buy them all, it would be hundreds of dollars. And I got it for 15, and I love it, and it's great. They're always DRM free. You can get them in multi-format, like either PDF or EPUB or Mobi, like whatever way you want it or use it. It's great. So right now, Humble Bundle has a Series Starters Black Library collection. And so they are, let's see, there's 13, yeah, probably about 20 books in this from the Black Library, which is Warhammer 40K.
Yeah.
And it's like a bunch of the series that started, so it'll be like the first book of 3, and you can like read it. So there's like the 13th Legion, there's like Space Wolves, stuff like that you can kind of read and get into that, and then from there you can sort of add other books that you like. But man, for paying so $1 will get you 6 books, $8 more will bring that total to 13 books, and if you pay 15 more on top of that, so you're looking at $24. You're gonna add another 12 books, so you're looking at 25 books for $25.
Well, it depends on whatever you want to pay, right? Because for example, and the way that their tier structure works, it's just the X or more. So if you pay $15 or more, you unlock all of the books now.
Oh, that's true. No, yeah, You're right. I was reading that as 15 more.
Oh, yeah, you were adding it. No.
But you're right. If you pay 15, you can unlock 25 books.
Yeah. And remember, it goes to charity, so it does support a cause. And the thing I like about the Humble Bundles is you can adjust how much goes to charity, directly to charity, and how much goes to Humble to pay their admin costs.
Yep.
And I think that's really cool. I can actually know a percentage that I can control the percentage that goes to the pass-through guy, right? I used to subscribe. They changed it recently to now it's Humble Choice, but I used to subscribe to the Humble Monthly. I did last year, right? Like $120 for the whole year. It's like $10 a month or something, and I got like 6 to 12 games a month. And it was a good way to build my Steam library up. I didn't actually keep going. They changed it to Humble Choice this year, and I decided to stop because I realized I was looking at my Steam library, and I realized I am never going to play these games. There's not enough time in the rest of my life. And I will say that, there were probably 6 or 7 games across that entire year that were ones that I had been looking to play at some point.
Right.
And the rest of them were kind of just games that I had heard of or hadn't heard of, and they were in a lot of indie stuff and a lot of little $20 games that I probably would never have played if they weren't in the bundle. And I'd play them for like an hour or two and then never play them again. Right. So it on the other hand, on one hand it's like I don't know if it was worth it, but on the other hand I was like, yeah, it probably was, and at the same time I paid a portion of that went to charity, so didn't feel bad about it.
Yeah. Yeah. So check it out, humblebundle.com, or like I said, Google Bundle of Holding. There's a lot of really cool indie games that are out there for RPG stuff. So yeah, good stuff.
Yep.
All right. So with Dan not here, we actually had a different podcast planned for you tonight, and we're going to get to it another week because we really wanted Dan included. So we called an audible, and we decided that we were going to talk about a game that Jason and I are very familiar with, and something that we've run multiple times, and we'd give it sort of our official Tabletop and Beyond review, and go through it a little bit. So the game is Shadow of the Demon Lord. Those of you who know us pretty well know that we've talked about this a lot. Jason and I actually had a podcast before called Blood and Steel, and we had probably like 25 to 30 episodes that we ran weekly or every other week, roughly. And we kind of all aspects of the game, and as we sort of transition out of the game, we sort of transition out of that podcast and into this podcast eventually. And so here we are, but we thought we'd give it our official review since we are very familiar with it. So Jason, why don't you kind of kick us off on how we sort of stumbled into Shadow of the Demon Lord?
Yeah, it was fun. And this will be a little overlap for people who have, listened to our prior podcast. But we were on the way to Gen Con. Do you think it was 2017?
Yeah, it was Gen Con 2017.
Yeah. We were on our way to Gen Con and like literally in the car. And every time you could fly, I think it's about a 10, probably more like an 11 and a half to 12-hour trip, road trip. And
if you stop for lunch and all that.
Yeah. And we do the road trip just because it's fun to have a bunch of guys get in a minivans or whatever and just drive and, let the world melt away behind us as we are heading to our gaming convention. Anyway, so usually about the 3 hours out of Indianapolis, I pull up my schedule and I start looking for the gaps that I have. And I usually just start kind of sliding through to try to find a new game that I've never played before. And I said, I'm going to find an RPG game that I never played before. So I went and I was reading the description of this game and I was like, oh, it sounds like this is a Western. So I said, okay, let's do this one. So I signed up, and I think you had a free schedule, and you signed up with me.
Yeah.
And we went to this thing and sat down. And let me tell you, this was not a Western.
It was not a Western because it was
at all.
The description was like you find yourself on a frontier town.
Yeah,
and something's
exactly.
happening with the cattle.
Yeah,
and you're like,
the cattle's drying up, and there hasn't been rain for weeks. And I'm like, oh, okay. Well,
I'll get my dust cloak on, and
Yeah. So.
Yeah.
But no, that's not what happened at all. So it was, you go into this frontier town, and it's not just that there's no water. It's like people are like, shriveling up and dying, and
cows
horrific.
are being mutilated.
Yeah.
And, you're like,
right. There's something horrific is happening here.
And we quickly realized it was a fantasy and not a Western.
No. Especially when we had a goblin in our party.
Exactly. That was the big tip.
Like, oh, okay. Anyway, so we play this game, and it's looks. What was the name of the supplement? Was it Looks Like Rain?
You're Without Rain.
You're Without Rain, yeah. One of the earlier supplements.
Yeah, one of their better ones.
I think that was one of the. Wasn't that one of the Kickstarters?
I'm not sure, but it
doesn't
was.
matter.
It was a great supplement. Great game.
Yeah. So eventually, you explore the town. There's some good opportunities for detective roleplay work. Then you drop down into the middle of the well and you go through this kind of a dungeon crawl, which was pretty ruthless. And then we get to the boss, and you're like, the whole party is together at this point. I'm like, all right, this is cool. We're getting through everything. It's a fantasy game. Then we get to the boss, and the boss just starts destroying us.
Destroying us.
Yeah, like killed the first two guys, like the two members of our party. No joke, like immediately.
And we're like, What
just happened? Yeah.
Like because like we literally just came from the last couple of days we were playing like Star Wars and D&D and nobody dies.
Nobody dies in 5th edition.
No.
This doesn't happen. Especially Star Wars, as Dan has proven to us time and time again.
You just can't.
You cannot kill the players. they're invincible. No, he's gonna get on me for that one.
I'm not kidding, Dan.
But anyways, so fun stuff. And we're dying horrifically.
Yeah,
I think she like grabbed you in her arm. It was like a Spider Queen-ish demon lady. She grabbed you in her arms and just like totally sucked your innards out or something.
And then ripped me in half.
And you were like an orc.
Yeah. No, you were the orc. I was the priest.
I was the orc. That's right.
Yeah.
Yep.
And our little goblin guy, remember he tried to slide under and stab him in the leg.
Didn't work.
And he swung his fist and hit him up against the wall and he just splattered.
Yeah.
And died. And we're like, oh dear. That was one of the first deaths where we're just like, did this just happen?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. Yeah. He did it, and then we were like, so wait, he's dead?
I think the dude had to go to another game. He's like, well, guys, thanks a lot. We'll see you later.
He did.
The goblin player.
Yeah, he did. He turned to Sheen and was like, oh, okay, well. But, and I think I ended it out, right? It was like, I was like, okay, there's nothing.
You were the only one alive.
There's nothing is going to happen here. But going out in a blaze of glory.
Dude, I literally had Bon Jovi's song playing in my head.
Yep.
You know,
Yep.
you were going down in a blaze of glory.
That's right. And so I think I think we started chanting on the table, like literally, you, me were left, and the DM, and we were literally banging our fists on the table, yelling, "Blood and steel, blood and steel, blood and steel."
Because you could hear like voices in your head
from my ancestors.
From your ancestors, and yeah, well, it was blood and iron. Blood and iron.
It actually was blood and steel. It was blood and steel.
Oh, you're right. You're right.
Even though, and this is another funny thing about the game, and in the universe in this game, there is no steel. It's iron. So I don't know why the guy put blood and steel on my character
that's
sheet.
so true. Yeah.
But we didn't know anything about the game, so whatever. So I'm like, all right, let's do this. So I grabbed my whatever I had, like giant sledgehammer or something. I said, and I jumped towards the beast with my sledgehammer up, and I rolled the dice, and it was like the worst failed roll you could possibly get. And all he did was look up us and said, and you were never heard or seen from ever again.
Fade to black.
Fade to black. And like we stood up, we were like high-fiving each other. We're like, yeah, we all died. It was amazing.
Oh,
and all the people were standing around us because they were waiting for the table for their next game, and they were looking at us like, "What's going on with these guys?"
Yeah, it was. You know what was interesting is that was the D&D area, like the big D&D area,
the Baldwin Games.
Yeah, and so we're sitting there like high-fiving. We're like, "Oh my gosh, that was amazing! We totally died." But the thing is it felt so cinematic.
Oh man, it was awesome.
It felt so cinematic. Like just the way we played it was so much fun.
I think walking out of that building, I think I bought the core rulebook on Amazon.
I did too.
I was like, I pulled up my phone and was like, boom, got it. Add the cart, got it, and that started a year and a half long campaign.
Yeah, I ran the campaign for it for about a year and a half.
Yeah,
it was good. It was good. So let's talk about the setting a little bit. It's obviously not your mom and dad's D&D game, right?
Nope.
This isn't. Hey everybody, we're living in a land of fun pixies and dwarves, like and
no.
Maybe the dwarves have a little bit of gripe against the elves, like. Yeah, it's
what
a
can
grim...
we do to make the world a better place?
Yeah, exactly. It is a grim dark setting, and if you don't know what grim dark is, they use that word for like a lot of like 40K stuff, whereas like everything sucks, everything's war, everything just is not good, right?
It's hopeless.
It's hopeless, and that is just the setting. If you were to take D&D and add grimdark, you'd have Shadow of the Demon Lord, I think. So it's great.
The whole premise is that there is an alternate. I guess you can kind of think of it this way. There's an alternate universe between our world and the next, which is where the Demon Lord himself resides, and
called the Void.
The Void, and there is a crack between the Void and our world, or that is slowly growing, and these little cracks and rifts are allowing the Demon Lord's essence to pour through in the form of other demons and monstrosities that are wreaking havoc on the land. And the reality is, when you read the rulebook, you realize I think it almost even says in there, like, it's going to happen. Right. There's no saving this world. It's just about what you can do with what's the time you have left.
Yeah, exactly. And it the crack is too small for the actual Demon Lord to come in. But of course, there's always those cultists who think they know better. Yeah. And will do anything they can to widen that crack.
That's right.
So, yeah, crack kills, kids.
Yes, it does.
So it's a dark setting, and players die.
It's very unforgiving.
Very unforgiving, and that's part of its charm, in my opinion.
Yes, every time you do any encounter or anything, you are paying really close attention because there is a strong possibility of death for you.
That's one of the things that attracted me to this game more than anything, right? Because it's like the actions that you do mattered.
Absolutely.
Right? It's like,
Always.
well, I probably should have done that. Well, if you say that in playing a Shadow of the Demon Lord game, you're probably going to die.
Yep. Or someone else will.
Or someone else will, We had a guy in our campaign, Jim. He was running a clockwork, right? And he was playing him, and he went out like as a hero trying to protect all you guys. and he just took a beating and ended up dying. Later on, he goes, "Oh man, I totally forgot to do these things that would have probably kept him alive."
Yeah.
But he forgot to do them, and he died.
That's
and it's like, we're not going to retcon it at that point. You know what I mean?
And
so.
that's probably what would happen, right? I mean, if you're in the middle of something like that in real life, you don't have 100% of your wits about you.
Right.
You're going to forget. You're going to forget about the health potion or the whatever trait you had or the skill or.
Yeah.
The thing that I love about the game is, and we can talk about, is in the mechanics. The mechanics are what make the game lethal.
Right.
There are some pretty hefty death mechanics. There's some pretty hefty insanity with stuff that actually can really control the encounter and the situation.
I love the insanity mechanics in here because it's super easy to gain insanity. And once you hit your threshold, there's a table that happens, and I think I love. There's everything on there I love. On this it's a D20 you roll, and there's 20 options that happen. And I mean, it's everything like our same clockwork guy went insane, and he plucked out his own eyes.
Yep.
And you're like, so what's he gonna do after that? Because he can't see anything. He can try to swing his sword, but he has so many penalties now that he's not going to hit anything, you know? And we had another guy who went insane and he thought bugs were crawling around inside of his skin. So somebody had to take an action to stop him from doing that or he'd damage himself.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
And I mean, there was just we had one guy who heard a noise. Remember this? You guys had that huge battle at the cabin? And he heard a noise, and he went to look under a table, and there was a little shadow monster that went, rah, like right at him, and he keeled over and had a heart attack and died.
Yep.
He survived a huge battle, but then died of that little shadow monster. Oh, that was so fantastic. Yeah, so the insanity mechanics are fantastic, and the way that you kind of lose insanity kind of sets you up to gain it again in the future. Like, you don't lose that much, and...
Yeah.
There's some really cool narrative stuff that you can do to lose insanity that kind of, make you weird. And
there's insanity and then also the corruption mechanic. Yep. Yeah. And I remember one of my characters kept getting corruption. And we had a little side adventure where he kind of redeemed himself a little bit. And you were like, okay, so you restore like this much corruption. And then afterwards, like, so you should be good now, right? And I'm like, I still have like 8 out of 10. And you were like, oh, I was like, yeah, it's not looking good for this guy. I don't think there's any amount of redemption. But you did a great job. You did a great job presenting, the standard, like, not black or white, gray conundrums. It's like, what do you do in this situation? Well, there's no real good solution, but there's a very clear bad solution.
Yeah.
And you're gonna take corruption. It's not fair. The world's not supposed to be fair. Even if you try to be the most righteous guy, this world will corrupt your character. So it's a lot of fun to play the game.
You know where I took a lot of inspiration for some of the campaign stuff and just the overall tone was actually the Witcher 3 video game.
I could see you saying that.
Because the Witcher 3, I think that if you want to talk about grimdark in a fantasy setting, The Witcher is a fantastic start. Where it's just like there's monsters, there's people who are not good people. You know what I mean? And there's a couple good eggs here and there, but they're few and far between,
Yeah. So let's talk. So we've talked a lot about the setting in the game.
Yeah.
I think people probably have a good idea of what the world is like. But what makes the mechanics of the system different than other RPGs?
Well, one thing that I love about this game is the initiative system, and it is so different than any other thing. And when we talked to Robert Schwab as part of our podcast, we specifically asked him about it, and he said that the initiative system was really driving him kind of batty with a lot of the other things. It's your typical, all right, roll your agility or roll a D20, add your agility bonus, what's your score, and you rank everybody in a list, and you kind of go from there.
Yeah, the current like D&D initiative systems, we're kind of getting at them.
Yeah, exactly.
So how can we speed this up?
Yeah, and that was really the thing about it, right? Is that there was taking so much time doing initiative that it was taken away from the story and narrative. And so to get into the Shadow of the Demon Lord initiative system, basically there's fast turns and slow turns. Fast turns, you get one action. That's all you get to do. You can
That's it.
move with that action, you can attack with that action, you can drink a potion with that action. You only have one action that you can do, right? A slow turn is a movement and an action. I mean, it's as simple as that. Do I want to move and act, or do I just want to do one thing? And that's further broken down into two kind of subcategories. So the fast action is going to have the players that go first, and then the monsters that will also take a fast action. Yep. And then you'll move to the slow action, where the players take the first slow action, and then the monsters will then take the slow action. And what's cool about that is it's kind of predictable, but that speeds the game along. You know what you're going to do. So the longest thing is you're saying, am I going fast or slow? Fast or slow? And you know that the monster is going to go after that. But what also is cool about it is that it lets the players set up some kind of cool combos sometimes. So we had a guy, Jim, whose after his Clockwork character died, he became a sorcerer, or a wizard, a sorcerer. And he spec'd that guy out as a primarily support character, and he would be casting crazy spells that would let you guys start hitting like crazy and doing crazy damage.
Yeah,
he'd be like, "Bam, you go," and on that target, you're getting extra benefits and boons and things like that. And so, by doing the initiative that way, he wasn't at the end and couldn't do anything. To help you that round. You guys could figure it out together what your plan of attack would be in that round.
Right.
Sorry, let me just say one more thing. And the way that I like to run it is I would say fast or slow, and if somebody was hesitating, like if they didn't know what they wanted to do right then, I'd be like, all right, you're slow. Moving on. You know what I mean? Because like if you couldn't figure out what you wanted to do, then like you're not taking a fast turn.
Yeah, and that's the point of fast turn is you know exactly what your reaction is going to be. You're doing it. And I love that about it because it added the sense of real time to the combat rounds, and so the combat rounds will go really fast. And the other thing is, like you said, because the monsters always went after the players in that part of initiative, you could plan these combos, but you also had to pay attention because the monsters always go afterwards.
Right.
So if you guys plan up some crazy combo and you set something up and you get through the end of the slow turn, if there are monsters left, they're going to go. And they're going to probably totally screw your plans up.
Well,
because now they get a movement and an action. So they're going to be able to adjust where they are on the battlefield and all that stuff.
And especially if they did something where, like, you had somebody who was hurting and they made them bleed.
Yep.
And you couldn't take an action to staunch the wound before the end of the round, you might bleed out and die.
Yeah, that was a common scenario. So, for example, in this game, if you have taken damage up, if you are incapacitated, if you've taken damage so that you are, at your full, and you take any more hits, it's insta death. Insta death. So so think about it. If you get this scenario where like somebody goes down. And it's at the end of the slow turn, and there are monsters left, and those monsters are standing around that person that went down. None of you can do anything because all your turns are expired, and those monsters are just going to coup de grace that guy right on the ground. And that happened.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
Many times.
And part of the game encouraged you not to pull punches. Like, a lot of times, like DMs will be like, all right, well, you're knocked out, so this monster is going to go searching for another live victim. No. Like, if you're knocked out and there's, like, a demon standing over you, he's going to gnaw on your bones and suck the marrow out. He's going to kill you.
Yeah. This is a thing, as I played other RPGs with other DMs, especially D&D. Right? I mean, and it kind of doesn't really make sense, but that's okay because it's part of the game. If a character gets incapacitated by a monster, most DMs will have that monster then turn and go towards another player.
Right.
But in reality, if this is a flesh-eating monster, he's just going to kneel down and start eating.
Yeah, absolutely. Right? Yeah, definitely.
And that's what happens in this game.
Yeah. So let's also talk about that. I mean, we talked about insta-death, right? Well, there's another aspect of insta-death, and this happens more often in the beginning than the end. But if you ever take one hit that takes your damage takes your damage up to your health threshold, which incapacitates you, that's insta death. If you take one hit that equals your health total, essentially, you're dead on the spot.
Gone. Yep.
You're gone. And that could easily happen in the first round because you only have like 9 hit points.
You got
or
nothing.
like 10. And you get like a longbowman that's rolling like 2d6 damage or something like that. That could kill you.
Yeah, it can. Absolutely. And in fact, if you go to schwalbentertainment.com, he has actual play podcasts. And if you listen to them, he killed first roll of the table of the game. I think he insta kills the character.
Killed the dude. It was like, well.
Yeah. All right. But
so death, and if you don't get insta killed though, when you die, basically you become incapacitated first, which means that you're laying on the ground holding your bloody wounds. You can't move. Like, you're not necessarily unconscious. In fact, you're not. You're just incapacitated, right? You've got a roll that's called a fate roll, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you roll a d6. On a 1, you get better, and you come back with 1 health, right? On a 6, you die. And, well, actually, you go to unconscious and you make another fate roll. If you roll a 6 again, you die. We played it where you started with some alternate death rolls where you started unconscious.
Yeah.
And so if you rolled a 6, you would die. If you rolled a 1, you would become incapacitated, and you had to keep rolling your fate rolls.
They're kind of hardcore rules.
Yeah, if you rolled anything but between a 2 and a 5 3 times, then basically you just remained unconscious.
Yep.
But again, if you're bleeding out, like, you're dead. So we had a couple close calls with a lot of people. But listen, the death rules are no joke. I mean, they're much harder than the D&D death rules. And some people even think those are a little extreme, but they're really not.
And the other thing is that it dying is not really that huge of a deal. This game is meant to be played fast. It's also meant to be played with multiple characters. So if you get up to level 3 and you die, you just re-roll another character of your choice at the same level 3.
So the leveling happens as a group, not as an individual.
Exactly. It's not your character's level 3. It's the party. The whole group is level 3 because the group levels up. And the game was actually meant every session for the group to level up. We changed that a little bit because we kind of wanted to make a little bit longer campaign. But if you read the book and you kind of play the book as Robert Schwalb designed it, every time you have a session, your group levels up. And there are only 10 levels in the game. And then when you get to level 10, you finish it. You do something epic in your story, and you finish it. You can decide what you want to do from that point forward. But anyways, I love the game. I had a couple characters die. We had some other friends that died that had several characters die. I think everybody except for one player at the table had re-rolled a few characters before we were done with our campaign. And we still had a great time.
We had a great time. So, Jason, let me ask you, what are the things that we like about Shadow of the Demon Lord?
The initiative mechanics are amazing. Everything you do matters. There is a constant risk of death or something catastrophic with every encounter that you take. For me, that's it. And of course, the dark setting.
Yeah. Yeah, it's great. So I also love the grimdark setting. From a DM's perspective, this was super cheap to get into and maintain. I mean, I think I bought the hardbound print book for was it $35?
I think it was $35
on Amazon. You know what
PDF's
I mean? I think
probably 10 or something.
Yeah, and then I also saw he was running a Halloween special later, like a month later, and for $15, I got the PDF and a bunch of other adventures.
Yeah, and the adventures are only $2 a pop on Drive-Thru RPG.
Listen, it's so easy to do one-shots with this game. And so if you love playing your D&D campaign and your group, doesn't really like doing, anything else other than D&D, but you want to spice it up a little bit, do a Shadow of the Demon Lord for Halloween. Get the rule book for cheap online as a PDF. I think you can get it for as much as, I think the most I've seen it is $15 maybe. $19 maybe, you know what I mean? So it's cheap to get the rule book on PDF, and then you can get a couple of adventures for $1.49 or $2 or something like that, and run a Halloween one. Run if you want to take a break, if maybe not everybody in the group is going to be there on a given Saturday that you're running your RPG, do a Shadow of the Demon Lord with 4 guys. It'll be tons of fun. And it's so easy to do one-shots. Character creation is so easy. So easy.
Yep.
We had a couple of episodes where we actually rolled characters on the show, and we were goofing around big time.
Oh, yeah.
And we still rolled them up in 20 minutes.
Yep. A lot of fun.
And it walks you through it so easy. Like, when I was doing the Rogue Trader prep, I'd have everybody send me their sheets and go over them with a fine-tooth comb.
Yeah.
To make sure that
was back
everybody
to
was...
a complicated RPG.
Yeah, exactly. So it was like making sure that everybody was doing it right. But, with Shadow of the Demon Lord, it was almost impossible not to get it right. Because it was just so easy to, like, say, oh, I have this, and I have this, and I have this. He laid it out. Rob Schwab laid it out. Super easy to do.
And it's great for if you have players that are maybe not super comfortable with the creativity of creating the backdrop and everything. It's fine. He's got background tables and
they're fantastic
characteristic
too.
tables and everything built in.
They're hilarious. Yeah. One of them was like you roll on your looks, and if you're a human and you got you roll 3d6, and if you get a 3, so you rolled 1 once, it's like you're hideous.
Yeah.
Like babies cry around you when they see you. Children run away from you.
That's my favorite, yeah. Babies so cry when they see you.
It's so great. So great. All right, but what don't we like about Shadow of the Demon Lord?
Oh, that's a hard that one is a much shorter list. I think that it is very much an adult themed thing. So we're our group was a lot of family guys and stuff like that. So we were dark and we like playing dark, but some of the supplements they are no holds back, like possibly like near the X rating kind of stuff. Yeah. So you kind of have to pay attention to what you're buying, because a lot of the community, and I'm not saying there are groups and times and places for all of this. I would not buy these supplements and just give it to my son to read. I would definitely screen anything that comes off of Shadow of the Demon Lord.
There was one that we incorporated in. I liked the story of it so much, but it was about a sex cult.
Oh yeah,
that was trying to summon a demon through their adventures in ecstasy.
Yeah.
Yes. And
that one got really dirty really fast there at the end.
Yeah, and I even toned it down.
Yeah, I realized that because afterwards I went and looked at the supplement, and right on the front page of the supplement is some nice graphic artwork.
Yes,
so I was like,
indeed.
Okay.
Yeah, and so I think I do think that the supplements and kind of the setting tend to, and if you know Rob Schwab, like he's a no holds barred kind of guy. You know what I mean? Like he's a super nice guy, but he's also a self-proclaimed Satanist. So
yeah, his filters are a little different than the rest of us.
Yeah, so there's that, and so that kind of comes into play a little bit with some of this stuff, and I think some of the community sometimes feeds off of it, and some guys take it a little too far. And Rob's come out and said, "Hey guys, we can't take it too far. Like it's fun to joke about it and stuff like that, but." I do think that there's an aspect of the community that maybe enjoys it a little too much that you have to be careful of.
And he knows his audience too. I was talking with him once, and he was talking about how he had a kid at the table once, and he was like, I had to, I toned it down. I had to tone it down for the kid to make it appropriate. So he knows his audience. I think he's actually, I don't know if he's done it or not, but he's been talking about taking the mechanics of Shadow of the Demon Lord and put him into a more family-friendly setting.
He's working on it right now. It's called The Mad Wizard.
Oh yeah, there you go.
Yeah, so he's been working on it, and I think he's realized that this is a niche game. Shadow of the Demon Lord is a niche game. I love it to pieces. I'd love it to have more like widespread circulation, but it's a niche game, and I think part of it's the setting. I think part of it is the community. You know what I mean? Like it's not going to take off like D&D. It's not. It's anti-hero stuff.
Yeah.
So I will say this too.
Sometimes we need a little anti-hero.
Yeah, exactly. Everybody needs a little anti-hero in their life. Yeah. I will say this, that if you're looking for like campaign books, like if you're looking to run like a year-long campaign, this just doesn't really have it. It does have a 10-session campaign book that you can run, and you're leveling guys up every session type of thing. But honestly, that's like almost an introductory adventure book, in my opinion. Like the adventures in that book aren't quite as fleshed out as some of the other supplements. Like A Year Without Rain, was such a good supplement. The zombie one that we played was a lot of fun. Dead Until Dawn, right?
Yeah.
And
there's a lot of good ones. We could go on and on.
Yeah, there's a bunch of them, and I think that if you're looking for campaigns, like this isn't it. What I did with my campaign that lasted a year and a half or whatever, is I would usually do 2 home brews and then throw in somehow work in a supplement that was out there, like a one-shot supplement, and sort of tie that in, and then kind of do 2 home brews and then tie it in, and that way we got a good flavor, and it wasn't always my adventure, quote unquote, that we were running. So yeah, and to be honest with you, I think that one last thing with this is I think that Shadow of the Demon Lord, in terms of like big supplements coming out, like they had a Cult Philosophy come out last year. Was it last year or the year before?
It was last year.
Oh, it came out last year. The Kickstarter was the year before.
Yeah, right.
But supplement came out last year. I have a feeling that might be the last big one for it.
Yeah, he's moved on to some other projects that he's working on.
Yeah, so I think that we'll still see like little adventures come out, or little like lore supplements that you can get for $1 or whatever. But I think that if you're looking for like really long-term support for the game and big things coming out, I don't think there's going to be too much in the future. So
still cheap to get in and fun to play.
Totally fun to play, and if you haven't played it, I highly recommend it. We had a blast with it, and it's just a great game.
It was great. Yep.
Great game. So, all right, guys, I think that's the time for us tonight. Thank you so much for joining us. Jason, thank you for joining me.
Yeah, man.
And everybody have fun gaming and geeking out this week.
Yep. Take care.
Bye.